that we have, there are several material universes. So when he breathes in and breathes out, universes get exhaled out, and when times for annihilation, the universes enter. In each of these universes, we have another expansion of Vishnu, the Garbhodakshai Vishnu. So from Garbhodakshai Vishnu's navel, a lotus is sprouted, and in that lotus, Brahmaji is born. So Brahmaji does not take birth like us, not ordinary living beings, like you need a mother and a father. Vishnu himself gives birth to Lord Brahma from his navel. And we have to understand Brahmaji's position. He's the first living entity. And the sloka is initially, the first sloka only, it's giving his position. He's the Purvaja, the first Jiva of the universe. He's not Vishnu Tattva, he's not Shiva Tattva, he's Jiva Tattva. He's the first living being. And it's also mentioned that he's Deva Deva. He's the chief amongst the demigods. Very important point to realize his position. Since he is the first Jiva, and Krishna empowers him to create our universe, like to create the human beings, the animal species, the bird species, all of us, including the demigods. He is the one who created them, of course, by the empowerment that he received from Vishnu or Krishna. So that's why he's called chief amongst the demigods. Whenever there is some trouble, like remember when Mother Bhumi was in trouble because of the burden of the demons in the material world, all the demigods together with Mother Bhumi went to Brahmaji to ask for help, to seek for help, because he's the chief amongst all the demigods. So now we know the position of Brahma, and he's he's the first Jiva and he's the chief amongst all demigods. That is why Narada approached him, not like he's his father, but he approached him like for him to be a guru of Narada Muni. So he's not approaching his father like, Papa, please tell me what you learned. There is no that for informal relationship from the verse we can see he's not being informal. He's coming in a reverent mood, with awe and reverence. That's something very important to remember. That Narada Muni is coming to his father to make him his guru, not seek this knowledge as if he's his father. Now, it's important to understand that Narada Muni is asking for transcendental knowledge which directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the super soul. And this knowledge, he knows, Narada Muni very well knows that Brahmaji got it from the Supreme Lord himself. Narada Muni had several sons. He's the youngest, right? Narada Muni is the youngest. So before this, he had many sons. All of them had come to Brahmaji asking for something. Some of them asked for material sense gratification. Some of them asked some other context. None of them had actually come with a spiritual question. Because Narada Muni asked a spiritual question, it is present in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Whatever happened with the other sons is not mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Narada Muni, his youngest son, who appeared from his mind, asked this question to him, he was very satisfied with the question. He was very happy that finally one of my sons is asking a spiritual question. And this has been now jotted down in Srimad Bhagavatam by Vyasadeva, this incident. So now Narada Muni is not asking for any type of knowledge. He's asking for the transcendental knowledge. Now let's see what how this knowledge should be imparted. It's written in the Bhagavatam. It's written in the purport. It should be according to 4.2, Bhagavad Gita 4.2, which clearly mentions Evam Parampara Praptam. This knowledge, this transcendental knowledge that Narad Muni is asking from his father, who he is actually regarding as his guru. He's asking for this knowledge from him because he knows he received it directly from the Lord. This is a very important statement or very important instruction that the Lord himself is telling Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Evam parampara praptam. It should be received in cyclic succession from one spiritual master to the other. So spiritual master giving it to his disciple, the disciple becomes spiritual master, gives it to his disciple, and this lineage should go on as is. So now let's discuss who is a bona fide spiritual master. Like it's asking about receiving it properly from by disciplic succession. It also mentioned that an inquisitive student must approach a qualified spiritual master to receive this knowledge. So can you all tell me some points? Who is a bona fide spiritual master?
One who follows a bona fide spiritual master.
Great. And
One who has the perfect knowledge of
scripture.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Scriptures, great.
Who's applying the knowledge in his life with his prachar.
Who is applying the knowledge by preaching and achar. Any other points?
It comes under the parampara.
Who has a guru?
Comes under the parampara.
He has a guru, and then the guru ultimately is coming from Krishna.
Yes, the parampara establishes the sampradaya. And anything else?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jare Teko Jare Tare or Krishna Upadesha. You should speak about the words of Krishna or the message of Krishna.
Great. You all have actually discussed all the points very well. Srila Prabhupada in the teachings of Kapila verse 4 in his purport mentions two basic qualifications. One does not have to be very scholarly, and guru can be anyone. But these two qualities need to be there. Number one is needs to be coming from the disciplic succession, should have received the knowledge in the parampara. And number two, he needs to be Brahmanishta. Like all his activities need to be dedicated to please the Lord. Brahmanishta means that firm determination that whatever I do, whatever activities I do is just to please the Lord. And that means he needs to know the philosophy, he needs to practice the philosophy, and then he needs to share that philosophy to others. Very important. So we have now defined who is a bona fide guru. Now, let's see how a inquisitive student should be. What are the qualities of that inquisitive student? Narada Muni is teaching us really important instructions here. That he's coming in a reverent mood to Brahmaji and he's asking very submissively. He's asking very submissively that please give me that transcendental knowledge that you've received from the Supreme Lord. I want to know that knowledge that will help me understand my soul and also understand the Supreme Soul or Krishna himself, who is the cause of all causes. So let's, can you pull up Bhagavad Gita 4.34?
But with the Prabhupada
How did he escape?
Oh, function F11.
Yeah, let's read 4.34 Bhagavad Gita. Very important verse. Let me read it. Tadvidhi pranipatena
प्रणिपातेन
prashnena sevaya
परिप्रश्नेन सेवया
upadekshyanti te jnanam
उपदेशन्ति ते ज्ञानं
jnaninas tattvadarshinaha.
ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Someone wants to read the purport, very important purport, very related to the verse that we are reading.
Path of spiritual realization.
The part of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advised us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line in disciple succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciple succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciple succession can convert the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manifesting his own process, as is the function of the police pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharma to Saksa Bhagavat Pranitam. The part of religion is directly economated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculations or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor the independent study of books of knowledge can one process in spiritual life. One has to process a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a manual servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of self-realization, spiritual master is the skirt of advancement in spiritual life.
We'll stop here. Let's discuss and then continue. So it is mentioning here very important instructions again. Krishna himself is saying all this. So Krishna himself is saying that if you want to understand the absolute truth, the transcendental knowledge, you have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Such a spiritual master will not be concocting his own knowledge. He will not say that he himself is God. He will not say that I think, I am proposing. This is how it's supposed to be. If you just merge into me, you will become God. He will not concoct any knowledge. He will say as it is from what he has learned from the disciplic succession. And this disciplic succession line should start from the Lord himself. Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote Bhagavad Gita and when he started his classes, the first thing he told his students was, this is the knowledge that began from Krishna. Next was Brahmaji in the line. Brahmaji gave this knowledge to Narad Muni. Narad Muni gave this knowledge to Vyasdev. And from Vyasdev it came to his disciples and several more in the lineage, and finally it came to Madhavacharya, whose appearance day it is today. It came to Madhavacharya. From Madhavacharya, then it went down, and then it came to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and finally Srila Prabhupada, and then to our gurus, and then to us. So this entire disciplic succession, this is called a sampradaya, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. I missed out one thing. Before Madhvacharya, of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. From Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then 6 Goswamis, then Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya first, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes. Ishwar Puri. So one thing we have to remember, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well as Krishna. So Krishna as well as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna and Rani himself. Both of them accepted a guru. They are Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why would they have to take a guru? Just to set an example that it is extremely important to have a spiritual master in our life to guide us, to guide us in the right path, to make us understand this transcendental knowledge. Who was Krishna's guru?
Antipani.
Who was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru? Ishwar Puri. Both of them had. So that's something that we have to understand, that they are teaching us that we have to have a spiritual master in our lives. And the spiritual master, we are reading over and over again, has to come has to be part of this disciplic succession. Should have the knowledge as it is, not something concocted, not something made up by themselves and making a lineage out of them. It has to start from the Lord himself. So there are 4 schools, 4 sampradayas. Can you all remember? Recall?
Brahma, Sri, Chatushkumar and Rudra.
Rudra. So they're all bona fide school, Vaishnava schools, where the knowledge has been coming from the Lord themselves. Sri Sampradaya from Lakshmi, Rudra is from Shivji, Kumar Sampradaya from the Kumara, 4 Kumaras, Brahma from Brahma. But ultimately, all of them are saying the same thing, that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all our devotional service should be dedicated to him. So we belong to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we should know what is our sampradaya, what is our lineage, what is the parampara, disciplic succession. We should know, because we should not blindly follow anyone. We should not blindly accept any knowledge. We have to accept that knowledge that is coming from the parampara. So this verse also teaches 3 ways, 3 very important ways to approach a spiritual master. The 3 ways are that we have to do pariprashnena, submissive inquiries. So, sorry. 3 things we have to do. Pranipatena. First, we have to approach a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master. Then we have to do pariprashnena, submissively inquire with reverence. There should not be like, you cannot treat your spiritual master as a friend and just ask any question randomly. The question needs to be good questions. It is interesting that I heard this in a lecture that Maharaj was giving class about the soul and the transcendental knowledge, about Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Suddenly, a devotee raises a hand when it comes for question and answer session and asks the Maharaj, who is a sannyasi, that Maharaj, my purse has been stolen. Do you know where the purse can be? She's thinking that the Maharaj is a mind reader or something, and he might be knowing all these things. That's what nowadays in many countries, that they're looking for mystic gurus. Everyone's looking for someone who has special powers, because that's attractive, right? Like someone who can travel from one place to another without actually moving, someone who can become small, who can become big. There are so many mystic powers that one can attain by yogic practice. So people are attracted to that, but they don't realize that those powers are temporary. And it's not going to be beneficial in the long run, because after all, this material world is temporary. So at one point of time, that yogi has to give up his material body. And then after that, the next life, he won't remember all his Shakti, his mystic power, unless Krishna sanctions it to him. So it's of no use to work hard in these yogic practices just for mystic yoga. Those who are practicing, the real purpose of yoga is to build our connection with the Supreme, to understand our relationship with Him. And it's not easy to do it alone. It's being said by Krishna himself that you cannot do this alone. Just by reading a book yourself, I've heard this from many new devotees who get the Bhagavad Gita while we are distributing that. I've tried to read the Bhagavad Gita, but it's so hard to understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Of course, it will not, because you need to have mercy from a guru to understand what the Bhagavad Gita tells. If you don't have a guru, our first guru should be Srila Prabhupada. You should take shelter, Padashraya. He is the Prabhupada. We should do Prabhupada Ashraya. It's also said in our ISKCON disciple course, before taking initiation, the first step is we should take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, know him, understand him, read his books thoroughly, understand his instructions. And then, once we know about him, then we have to go find one of his disciples who has gained that knowledge from himself, Srila Prabhupada himself. And then, since we know Srila Prabhupada's mood, we will approach our spiritual master with awe and reverence and seek that transcendental knowledge which he can transfer to us. So, 3 things: approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Second, you have to ask good questions, not any random questions. Do not base that crucial moment that you have with those exchanges with your spiritual master. You should ask whatever good questions that you can think of that will be beneficial for your life. Do not concoct any type of questions that you think will satisfy your senses. Or just randomly asking any questions. Think of good questions that will help you, and the guru will be pleased by your questions. Yes.
How devotee will come to know the authenticity about the realness of a guru? I mean, for initial progress of spirituality, how do we come to know whether the guru is authentic or not? Because in the current world, there are so many spiritual gurus on YouTube, even in the mountains.
As I mentioned, Krishna himself is saying, and Srila Prabhupada is also saying, that it has to be coming from Evam Parampara Praptam. You have to first find out who is the teacher of that guru. Did he learn from a particular teacher? If he says he does not have a spiritual master, that's a red flag. Definitely a red flag. Every spiritual master has to have had a guru. Otherwise, the knowledge that he is imparting is questionable. Because after all, the knowledge is coming from the Lord himself. He is the original spiritual master. If it is not coming from the spiritual master, the supreme spiritual master, then the knowledge that might have been being imparted is incorrect, faulty. Because human beings, after all, are imperfect. We have 5 imperfections. So we should not just blindly accept anyone's 4 imperfections. We should not blindly accept anyone's knowledge unless we find out who is that person's spiritual master. And if we find out that person's spiritual master, try to find out the original source that has given that knowledge. Number 2, bona fide guru, as we mentioned, will not concoct anything, will act as a servant. He will not say that I am God. That's also very important. He will act as the servant of the servant of the servant. He'll have that mood. Exactly. No ego, but no ego, of course. But when it comes to teaching the disciple, and if he needs to correct him, he or she needs to correct him, he will tell the correct path. And Narada Muni is also showing the third very important aspect of the relationship with spiritual master. Sevaya. One must render service unto him. Now, how do you think Narada Muni is going to do sevaya to his spiritual master, who is going to be Brahmaji?
By spreading what he has done.
Vani Seva, by following his instructions.
The first thing that he has to do.
By testing it.
He has asked this question to Brahmaji. Now, what's the first thing that he has to do? Very important. Hear attentively. That's a seva. It's not that we are sitting and we're not doing anything. That means it's not seva. No. Utilizing our hear senses to hear is a big seva. So whenever our spiritual master, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru is he's giving a class, our ears should be very attentively hearing the instruction, the Vani of the spiritual master. So that is extremely, extremely important. Any discussions on this verse? 2.5.1.
What do you consider reading?
Huh?
Reading Bhagavatam is the same as a hearing, or what do you think?
Me?
Your opinion.
From what I have heard, listening, Shravanam is much more potent. And then at home, reading every day, daily, is very helpful to stay connected with the Bhagavatam. Even if I don't understand, I can go back and hear more classes online. There are so many classes on each and every verse. I was thinking there is no class on 2.5.1 and 2 because there's such a small verse. But there's so much content. I didn't even realize it. So when I read personally, whenever time permits, that I try to read myself also so that I am connected. Reading daily Srila Prabhupada's books has a power of itself. Especially if you read at night, it gives you peace while sleeping also, because you think of what you have read also. It's very, very good habit to keep reading even if we are not understanding. But there are classes, we have to do both. It should not be only personal reading and not listening to classes, or not listening to our seniors, not listening to our spiritual master, not listening to Shiksha Gurus. Because
Lack of time is like how to find time for everything.
you have found time to come and you yourself are giving classes also. That's also a good practice, that you are yourself studying. It forces you to study. So these things help. Thank you.
Actually, even reading is also hearing. Reading is also hearing. Chanting is also kirtan. That is also hearing. Everything indirectly connects to Shravana. Because we say that when we are reading, we are actually hearing the words. Chanting also, they say.
Reading like we are not loud reading. When we read
It's still.
it's still same.
When we are reading or hearing or whatever, it's not that only our ears are hearing. It's also our mind is hearing, and also our heart is hearing. So there are three levels of hearing. When we are reading, heart is hearing. Because if it is Bhagavatam, heart is hearing. So whether you are hearing softly also, we do Gayatri Mantra softly without uttering a word. But who is hearing? Heart is hearing. So hearing.
Nice. Any other discussions from this verse?
I have a point. But I'm wondering at Narad Muni, what sort of a character he is. Obviously, father only, so you know about your father so well. But he knows that his father is the firstborn living entity. That is one thing he knows. And he also knows he has the etiquette. What wonderful etiquette. See, the etiquette is first he's paying obeisances, then he is asking questions. This is something which struck me as regards this particular verse. And then obviously he has questions. He's asking about the Sankhya. He's asking about individual soul and super soul. So it looks like Narad Muni knows a lot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked all these questions. If Narad Muni had been a Jnani, he wouldn't have asked questions about individual soul. If Narad Muni had been a yogi, just a yogi, Ashtanga yogi, he wouldn't have been asking about individual soul. Because these Jnanis and yogis, they don't understand the soul. They at best understand what is called maybe awareness, consciousness, all these they understand. Soul, they don't understand. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we came to know that there is something called size of soul. Who knew? And size of soul is given where? In our Vedas. So our Narad Muni, most probably, he's like already elevated, but he's again asking his father and considering his father to be the spiritual master, for whom? Maybe like Arjuna only, for our benefit. He's asking these questions. Hare Krishna.
We'll come to know, that's a great point. I missed out that he does namastes too. Very important. He pays respectful obeisances to his father. Very important how to approach your spiritual master. That's the three things, out of three things that we just mentioned. Pranipadena, the way we approach our spiritual master should not be just like as if he's just someone else. He's important. He's a representative of the Lord, so we should have that mood when we approach him. We have to pay obeisances. Very important point. Yes.
I have heard that whenever spiritual master is there, you should be loudly pronouncing his pranam mantra. So that he can hear and he is happy hearing. Because he knows that means the disciple is actually surrendering, and the disciple is also like paying obeisances. And paying obeisances, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita 9.34 and 18.65, Mam Namaskuru. So it is like representative of Krishna, the disciple is paying obeisances.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to the second verse. We'll now come to know what Narad Muni, why he's asking, what next he's asking, and for whom he's asking. Yad rupam yadadhishtanam yatha shristam idam prabho yad samstam yad param yadcha tat tatvam vadav tatvataha. My dear father, please describe factually the symptoms of this manifest world. What is its background? How is it created? How is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? Someone wants to read the purport?
The inquiries by Narad Muni on the basis of factual cause and effect appear very reasonable. The atheists, however, put forward many self-made theories without any touch of cause and effect. The manifested world as well as the spirit soul is still unexplained by the godless atheists through the medium of experimental knowledge. Although they have put forward many theories manufactured by their fertile brains. Contrary to such mental speculative theories of creation, however, Narad Muni wanted to know all the facts of creation in truth and not by theories. Transcendental knowledge regarding the soul and the super soul includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the basis of its creation. In the phenomenal world, three things are factually observed by any intelligent man: the living beings, the manifest world, and the ultimate control over them. The intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. The symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggest the plan of an intelligent brain behind them, and by genuine inquiry one may find out the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows them factually.
Yeah. So young Narad Muni, so imagine he's young. Young Narad Muni, he sees the material world that he's been brought to, and he can actually see the dualities of the world. Sometimes someone is happy, sometimes one is sad. And he can also see the temporary nature of the world. So he starts questioning, like an intelligent person, that where is this? Why is this happening the way it is? Who is in charge of this? Who actually created this? Such good questions, very important questions for us. For the benefit of us, he's asking all these questions, which will actually help us understand what this material world is, why this material world was actually created, how was it created, who is the cause of all causes. After all, this chapter is on that. So he asked 6 questions actually. Yad Rupam, Rupam, the symptoms. What are the symptoms? Please describe of this material world. Yad Adhishthanam. What is the background? Yad Shrishtam. How is it created? Yad Samstam. How is it conserved? Yad Param. Who is the controller? Yad Cha. What is it made of? 6 questions, So these questions are very important. Narada Muni is teaching us how to ask good questions to spiritual master, because these questions are very important for us to get enlightened, to understand the goal of life, the purpose of this material world. And what should be, as human beings, what should be our goal? But we have to understand that Narad Muni is not asking for any other type of knowledge. No, he's not asking for material science knowledge. He's not asking for mystic power knowledge. He's asking directly about the transcendental knowledge, and this is included. How is the creation made? How the living entity? What is the role of living entities? And then who's the controller? All this is included in the transcendental knowledge. So we should not think that he's asking mundane questions. None of these are mundane questions, or we cannot call a material science questions. He's asking scientific questions, definitely. Factual questions. He's eager to know these questions from his father, who he has accepted as a spiritual master. But these questions are included in the transcendental knowledge. It's mentioned. The knowledge of the phenomenal material world is part of the transcendental knowledge, because after all, we need to know who is behind this creation. In science, when you study science, we learn about different laws. How do planets revolve around the sun in their specific orbits? So we have learned this from Copernicus, we have learned this from Einstein, Newton. They've made so many different laws. We have studied details about this. Laws of thermodynamics, laws of physics, the laws of the orbit. But I don't remember everything. But yeah, I remember studying all this. But we have to understand the difference between the laws of nature and the laws that have been discovered by the scientists. These scientists did not actually create that law. Like, they did not go up there in the space and make the orbit for the planet and actually make those planets revolve. They did not do it. They just happened to discover it. And if you go back to our history, these laws have always been adapted, meaning they've learned something, they've discovered something, published it, and then someone found something better out of it, and then again it got improved. And these laws keep changing. This is in case of biology, physics, chemistry. Scientists find something, publish it, and then someone refutes that particular law and finds something even better out of it, and then that is again published. So it's not like a perfect science. These laws, whatever the scientists have published, keeps changing from one era to the other. However, the laws that have been set by the Lord himself, they never change. They remain the same. Hence, transcendental knowledge that comes from the Lord never changes. It will always stay the same. It's not like material science, that laws are discovered by just proving the point, by doing experiments, and then you have this proof. And then that hypothesis is refuted, and then you have another proof, and then laws keep changing. It's interesting, the difference. So in Manusmriti, it's interesting that, let's take an example of traffic laws. So some of the traffic, of course, when we follow traffic laws, we are abiding by the government. Government sets those laws. They are made by the government. And if we break it, we are punished. So there's legislation. The scientists don't make a legislation. They don't make a law that if we don't follow, then we are getting punished. It's interesting that Manusmriti has traffic laws mentioned in it. In one of the chapters, it says when two bullock carts come together, there is a way who gets right of the way. And if someone tramples over someone, it's also mentioned what is the punishment for that. So all the laws have been written, and those laws are all coming from the Lord himself. There has to be someone behind it, some controller. Just like in our government, we have someone controlling all the laws. It's not like scientific knowledge, where we don't have someone controlling the scientific laws. It keeps getting adapted. So we have to understand the demarcation between scientific knowledge, transcendental knowledge. There is someone who is the controller, someone who is the cause of all causes, someone who's actually giving this knowledge, who's the source of all the knowledge. Yes, someone who is the source of all the knowledge. Yes. So the intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. So this brings me to a story. So scientists out there think that this entire universe has just come upon by mixture of chemicals, and then there's this Big Bang theory. That theory is a theory that has come up, and it's still prevalent. So Newton, updates have come. Thanks. Some scientific updates have come. So Newton was not happy with that. So what he did is he made a particular model, a very nice model, and he kept it in a room. And he asked one of his fellow scientists to come and see it. The scientist was very happy seeing this. This is a fantastic model. You got all the universes intact, or it was a universal model. So he was very happy to see it. So he asked, "Who made this? It's so beautiful. It's so accurate." So Newton said, "No one made it. It just came upon by chance. It just happened to be there." The scientist was surprised by this and found Newton's answer vague and strange. And that's when Newton said that, "Well, you just said this, so you are thinking there has to be a creator behind this model. Don't you think there should be a creator behind this entire universe that we have? Don't you think so?" So yeah, this is a question we should ask as scientists also. That don't you think there should be someone behind this entire material universe? It just came upon by chance. How is it possible? So we have to ask that question as scientists. Okay, so anyone wants to add some points to this discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mother.
Thank you.
So that word symmetry of creation, says symmetry of creation and its regulative. The word I was just focusing on, that symmetry means exact proportion, well balanced. So having something there, it's a well balanced, proportional creation and reaction, right? That is something hard to get when you have something created by chance, right?
Exactly.
So I was just thinking about that.
Good point.
It is also very perfect. Like the Earth is a perfect distance from the sun. If it was little far away, then it would be too cold. Or it was little close, it would be too hot, and the life would not be possible. So we can see that how perfect it is. And I think Prabhuji had mentioned Prabhu in one of the classes that it's like, monkey typing on the computer and coming up with a very nice poetry, Shakespeare like poetry. That's like, is that possible? Somebody typing randomly and very nice poetry. So that's what the scientists are saying, that how by random things and
Random
this
combination.
perfection has come about.
It's true.
Some theories there of the monkey typing, and I don't remember the name.
Several points come to my mind.
Mhm.
One point comes to my mind is I relate Srimad Bhagavatam to Bhagavad Gita, and here Narad Muni is asking about soul, super soul in the first verse, and he's asking about phenomenal world in the second verse. And we find that in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, we have this understanding of difference between matter and spirit, Sankhya Yoga. And in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, we have so many details about the super soul. And that means what Bhagavad Gita has just initiated us into all these concepts, and Bhagavatam is expanding these concepts.
That's true.
So that is one point that comes to mind. And second point that comes to mind is what Kishori Mataji talked about, that the sun is not very far away and the sun is not very close by and all. I have a different way of looking at it. See God, Lord's creation, the way it is, wherever the sun is, He has created us and our bodies so that it suits the temperature which the sun is providing us. So like all angles he is actually balancing. So that is something which
Because they say living entities are actually.
Yes.
All planets are there. They're suited for that particular climatic situation.
After that, I can ask the question.
So I was just hearing in the discussion, it is explained a person who knows little, he thinks he knows everything, and person who actually knows something, he understands how less he knows and he become humble. In this regard, there is a story by in Newton aspect. He was once in on a shore of an ocean, and there were some pebbles, and he said, "My knowledge compared to God knowledge is like pebbles on this vast ocean. You know, the ocean is vast, but I know just these pebbles." They become submissive, and there are many scientists who realize these facts, but there's some scientists who out of their ego they just want to have this control, and they come up with, and they make also, it's like we go about Darwin theories and they try to come up with these proof of theory. They have so many models and specifically fossils. And what happened over a period of time, they have realized many of them are fabricated. Many of the fossils, it's they're fabricated. A human skull with a ape jaw, and they just fixed it and say this is this man, this is that man.
Oh, is it?
Many of these are rejected now. So again, because they want some name, fame, they know they're cheating, but
Fake news.
it's no, it's published, and they were taught.
Not speculation.
They have published, they're taught, and now they proved it is fake. So there are two lobbies. Manipulation. So,
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, good question. Since everybody's being very nice to Sri Radha, I would like to ask everybody's just sharing notes and thoughts. But the question, so you talked about we should not waste a single moment, with the spiritual masters when we come to across to those people, and we should ask good questions, not bad questions. So
Something not bad questions. Not something that is beneficial to us.
So now here in this place, we are seeing that the question asked here is, okay, how it is created, the material world, and what is the background, like all these material questions. Prabhupada was also asked this question. And then what Prabhupada said? That how did we come here? Or
When you will go back, then you will know.
so he said that,
You're here anyway.
right, he said that don't ask why you are here, because if the house is on fire, you should not waste time in thinking how did the fire house caught on fire, where was the fire started. No, you get out, and then you will find out everything. So it's here. Narad Muni is asking such questions to his spiritual master, but somebody else asked Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, this is, he kind of dismissed that, okay, this is not involved. So now how do we know what's a good question, what's not? I'm not saying that, okay, there are some material questions that, okay, which stock should I invest in, or where should I buy the property? Not like those material questions, but even in spiritual, what do you consider as good question?
The contexts are too different, very different. In this context, Narad Muni is coming to find, it's not that Narad Muni knows the way of life. He's young and he's seeing the dualities of life, and he knows he already knows that Brahmaji has got the knowledge directly from Krishna. So he wants to know that knowledge that he has received from Krishna, and all these parts, because he's an intelligent man, he knows, he has actually observed the living entity, the jivas, he's observed this material world, and he knows that there has to be someone who is the ultimate control. But he wants to know about this, so that in one way we also get to know. So that is his intent. But we have to know what was the intent of that devotee who was asking Srila Prabhupada. Was their intent to actually benefit spiritually or have others benefit spiritually? What was the intent? Our intent should be for our spiritual advancement. When we ask any question to Guru submissively, that question needs to be just whatever questions we ask, it has to be something that will help us in advancing in Krishna consciousness, whatever doubts we have. That's one. Anyone wants to say something?
I have one small point.
Great.
And actually, I heard it in one of the lectures of
Mhm.
Radhanath Maharaj. There were two devotees asking questions. One gave like some question like, why Krishna did like that, and it is more of it's Devki and Vasudeva, they were together. If Kansa would have separated, there were no 8 children were born. What is the point in Krishna? How he will come? So Maharaj doesn't paid much attention, and somebody asked another question about this thing. We have our calculation of years and those aspect, relativity in time, and Maharaj explained to it in great detail. Later, Radhesham Prabhu went and asked Radhanath Maharaj the contrast. Why you didn't pay attention to one, and seems like a very technical question. You paid so much attention. So Maharaj says it depends, because what about Shastras? If whatever our acharyas has given time to explain, that is very important. So that's what Maharaj mentioned.
Can you repeat?
He said whatever our acharyas has given time to explain, that is very important. That is an important understanding we all should have. So, otherwise, we can mix.
If they have given time, so we give time.
Yeah.
So that means that we have to study Shastra before asking questions, then we will know that what is. Acharyas have covered.
And spiritual masters are there. Shiksha Guru, Diksha Gurus are there to correct us if we are asking questions that are not important. Like Srila Prabhupada openly used to say, no, you don't have to worry about this, worry about how to get back there. So
The answer to any question that establishes the superiority of Krishna and develops our love for him, that question is good. One day when somebody asked Prabhupada how many windows are there in the Empire State Building. The spiritual master knows everything. Don't tell me how many windows are there in the Empire State Building. So then Prabhupada answered, okay, tell me how much water is there in the mirage. It's all illusion, as you are saying. People asking about so many different things, and that question of how did we come to this material world, it's a debatable topic, and that's people were debating either way. So then Prabhupada answered, okay, we may not have the exact answer from the scripture, but you'll once you get out of here, that you should focus on getting, because it's a debatable topic. People have different views. So I think that's where he would answer that. It's not clearly written in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai, thank you. Any other points?
I can share something about Madhva Chandra. Today's is a
Yeah, please.
Now, one thing, I just wanted to add a couple of points, Hare Krishna. So, nice discourse. Sukhdevanand Prabhu was talking about symmetry, right? He pointed to how the symmetry and balance. It's kind of, when you talk about symmetry also, it goes down to that subtle level. Why do we have 2 ears and only one mouth? That is also symmetry, right? Because the importance is given to hearing, Sravanam. What Mataji was saying, that Sravanam is very important. That's why we have 2 ears. While talking, the talking is not so important as much as we should hear. We should definitely talk. Like the way Mataji is now talking, right? Only for purpose of preaching we should talk, not for any other, anything about Krishna. Yeah, Prajalpa. Like, so that part was very. Another point you are asking about reading, Mata. So one thing, what they say is reading is nothing but recorded voice. So today, when you are reading this purport, you are essentially having association with Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
See, even this question he asked, first question, like in these two contexts, it is different. He was asking, look at the first line of the purport itself. I was just reading the first line of the purport. Srila Prabhupada clearly says
The inquiries by Narada Muni on the basis of actual cause and effect appear very reasonable. He's saying that. So that is, so this is right there where the spiritual master is giving his thoughts on what is this. And the other point I just wanted to add to that also is like, if you are, when these questions, if you take it separately, like a material world is something different, no. So this is something, there is a, I think people who have read more, they will be able to say there's something called tadiya, right? Anything with the deity. So something, so this is all, this material world also, what you see is nothing but the Lord's creation, right? It is all the Lord's creation. So we'll have to take it in that context. We are not, this is not some mundane thing or something. Whenever you are associating with the Lord, that's the reason Bhagavatam is taking us through each and every canto slowly it is developing that it's all Lord. It is we'll come to that point finally. So we have to take it as part of Lord's creation.
Nice.
So that's all. Thank you, Manda.
Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Hari Hari Bol.
Nice class.
Arey, kaha nice class. Hello.